This is
Bravo Golf Uniform, Karen Loveland.
This is
Go ahead, Bart.
November 0, November Yankee, Bart, Mobile, Fort Collins to Evans.
This is Kilo Foxtrot 0, Colorado Boy, Mike in Fort Collins.
This is N0EMP, Greg, Fort Collins. Mike, I'll catch you after the net, N0EMP.
This is Kilo Echo 0, Oscar X-Ray Victor. Scott, Fort Collins. Good evening, Joe.
Got two of my favorite friends. Mr. Gregg's out there, and thank you, Scott, for that. You got any questions, make sure you definitely ask. We got a group tonight. Anyone else want to check in for tonight's TechNet, please call.
This is W0TJH, TJ from Berthoud.
Hi, TJ. How you getting along?
I'm doing well. How are you doing? Just got home from work and, you know, settling everybody down and playing with all the animals and the kiddo.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, I'm doing fine. Thank you, TJ. Anyone else want to check in for tonight's TechNet, please call.
Whiskey 0, Sierra, Bravo Sierra, Tony Hudson.
Hey, Tony, what's going on?
I'm doing 4 nets tonight, so I thought I'd better check in here too.
Are we the first or the last or the one in the middle?
You're in the middle.
Okay, Tony, I'll let you go. Thanks so much. Anyone else want to check in for tonight's TechNet, please call.
Whiskey
Kilo,
Yankee 7
Zero,
Alpha,
Alpha,
RJ
Bravo,
Wyoming,
Kilo.
Granite Canyon.
Okay, and Fort Collins today.
Well, there was a double there, and I thought I got them both, but I didn't. I only got Alec K0ABK. Good evening, Alec. Who was the other one there?
Whiskey Yankee 7 Alpha Alpha, RJ Granite Canyon, Wyoming.
Thank you, RJ. You know what? Your signal gets better and better. What do you got? 100-watt linear or 1,000-watt linear on that sucker?
Nothing of the sort. Just good airwaves, I guess.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that, RJ. How's Alec getting along tonight?
I'm doing pretty good there, Joe. I got the little ones in my arms, and I'm using my Echolink application, so figure I'd check in and listen to the net.
Well, I'm very glad you did, and you know, that Echolink thing used to be easy. You just put it in and it automatically did that, but you got to jump through some hoops. Well, thank you, sir, for checking in. Anyone else want to check in for tonight's TechNet, please call.
Kilo Echo 0,
This is
November
Kilo
Tango,
Charlie
Jason
0,
in Fort Collins.
Zulu India Echo, Darren.
Well, that's unusual. The only reason is because, Darren, I understood your voice, but there was somebody there with you. I got KE, and that's all I got. Whoever was double with Darren, come back.
It's Kilo Echo 0, November Yankee Tango, Jason in Fort Collins.
Good evening, Jason. How you doing?
Doing good. Just enjoying the weather.
Thank you for checking in. Darren, I thought you'd be in Boy Scouts by now.
Well, meeting doesn't start for another 40 minutes or so, and I'm running late, so I'm still on the road. How are you doing? Did my email give you what you needed?
I think it did. Was there a check number on that? I didn't look. I just saw it and said that you wrote one check. Was that check number on there?
It was not in the text, but I sent you the picture of the check so you can read it right off there.
That is right. I saw that. Yeah, I saw that this morning early, like when I went to work at 3 o'clock this morning, and I got there about 3:30, 4 o'clock, and I did not open it up, but I will. That's the state. They want to know how you do all this stuff with that account. So sorry for the confusion, but thank you very much for that.
No worries. Have a good one. KC0 ZIE monitoring.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else want to check in for tonight's TechNet? Please call now.
This is Kilo Delta Zero Whiskey Bravo Charlie, Pete in Fort Collins.
Hi, Pete. What's new?
Bravo Echo, Debbie in Fort Collins.
Oh, we got two of you. Good evening, Debbie. How you doing?
Wonderful, Joe, and you?
I guess I'm okay. Thank you very much for checking in. Pete, are you still out there?
I'm still here, and I'm just checking in and want to listen to the net tonight. Thank you guys very much.
You're very, very welcome. Thank you very much. Anyone else want to check in for tonight's TechNet? Please call.
Kilo Echo Zero, Hotel India Mike, Rick in Fort Collins.
Well, how's the new general, Rick?
Awesome. Been having fun. Haven't made a lot of contacts, but few.
Well, you got to look at it this way. It's a few more than you did before, right?
That's it.
Yeah, I still say, you know, when you start talking to the world, that's when it's really cool. That's just my opinion, though. Anyone else want to check in for tonight's Club Net? I'm sorry, for the TechNet, please call. It's Kilo Delta Zero Tango Yankee uniform. Anyone else want to check in for our TechNet for this evening? Please call.
Kilo Fox Zero, Colorado boy. I'd like to leave a message here. I need to talk to Greg. N0GEM. If he can give me a call after any time. But we need to talk on the phone. Kilo Fox Zero, Colorado boy.
Hey, Mike. Greg, N0EMP. I'll be here after the net, and I'll get your phone number after the net, N0EMP.
Okay, thanks a lot, K0CB.
Okay, this is KD0TYU looking for more check-ins for the Northern Colorado Amateur Radio Club sponsored TechNet. Please call. Okay, it looks like we've got our fill of people here. We have a few new folks on here that are new with licenses. They've been on more than once here. Is there anybody that have any questions? And remember, there's no question that if you don't understand it, we want to help you. Please call now.
K0EFP requesting check-in.
Mr. EXP, or ESP, I'm sorry. How you doing?
Oh, not too shabby. Call sign, phonic quiz, Kilo 0, Echo, Foxtrot, Papa. No comments, just late check-in.
Okay, thank you very much. Did you have any questions?
Negative.
Okay, does anybody else have any questions for the net? Please call.
KD0WBC, I have a question if I could.
You have the floor, sir. Go ahead.
This is Pete in Fort Collins. I was curious if it's possible to power a mobile unit, like a dual band, off of a CPU, like 12-volt, computer power source. I'm pretty good at manipulating those little suckers to get a bunch of power off, but I didn't know, I can't get much more than 12.6 volts out of there. Amps are fine. Just didn't know if it'd power like a typical dual band mobile radio for like a base station at home.
NYY.
You have the floor, Bart. Go ahead.
It most certainly will, as long as the transmit current does not exceed the capability of the power supply. Most of your mobiles are good from around 14.2, 14.5 down to 11.7 or 8. If you get down to about 11 volts, some of them will start to drop out. It varies widely by radio, but those power supplies from computers are remarkably strong in some cases. Again, just watch your transmit current, which can approach 20 amps on a real high-powered mobile.
K0EFP with a comment.
Go ahead.
Excellent question. I've experimented the same. I've been in IT for about 23 years now. You can certainly do it. One thing to be wary of, a lot of the computer power supplies can be pretty dirty on the RF side. It's usually not a big issue with VHF and up rigs, but if you're running an HF rig, good chance you're going to get a lot of noise. The other thing is a lot of the cheap power supplies will have a hard time with it, but the better ones, not necessarily better wattage, but just better quality ones, should handle it with minimal or no issues. One thing I'd recommend to the person asking the question is, if you're going to test it on a particular power supply, is try it at low power, see how it works, try it at medium power, and work your way up and see, and just verify how well that power supply is going to work. I've seen a lot that'll work fine at low or medium powers, but you kick it up to high and the power supply gets cranky. Anyways, back to net, K0EFB.
Did that help you, or do you need, or does somebody else have a comment?
KD0WBC, that helps a lot. I was going to experiment with all that stuff. Those are my sentiments exactly. I enjoy playing with those things and seeing what they'll do. Most of the ones I have are higher-end units. I think the ones I've salvaged, and their RF noise is pretty low, I can tell, so I think I'll just have to try it. Thank you, guys. KD0WBC, clear.
I'm just curious, are you using that in substitute of a power supply?
Yeah, this is Pete. That's the intention. Just kind of make my own power supply. Kind of wanted to get a mobile home unit to play with because I've got too many vehicles. Not sure which one to put it in yet. So kind of just to play around and build antennas. My favorite thing to do.
Yeah, I kind of tend to agree with that. That'd be kind of interesting to do that. I'd hate to do it on a vehicle because you got to go back and forth and back and forth. So it's much easier to work in the house, don't you think?
Yeah, exactly. And hopefully I'll pass my general soon, so then I can get on with HF. But for now, I'm stuck to dual band. So I like to build those power sources and see what will work. Thank you, guys. KD0WBC, Quinn.
You do bring up a good point. Bart, do you know if that makes a difference, whether it's UHF, VHF, or HF?
Makes a difference in terms of what? I'm sorry, I missed a piece of something somewhere.
RF noise.
Roger. I think your UHF and VHF radios will be far less sensitive to it. The HF radios will be a bit more sensitive to it. However, a large cap and an inductor can usually rectify quite a bit. Bad choice of terms. Filter out quite a bit of that.
That makes a lot of sense. Anybody else have any questions for the net? Please call. Okay, if not, tonight's subject is repeater etiquette. Etiquette. Darren, if you're out there, are you still out there?
Absolutely, I am. And I actually had a small comment, if I could have a second of airtime.
You have the floor. Go right ahead, sir.
All right, I did want to mention, in case you folks didn't know, we have a YouTube channel. This net is being streamed direct live to the YouTube channel and is recorded for future reference. And also, we've got all three of the recorded sessions from Hamfest are now available on that YouTube channel as well.
That's great. You and Dave are doing a super job. I do appreciate that. Would you care to start off the repeater etiquette?
I'm sorry, I have no idea what you're looking for.
Just the same thing that you wrote on the net. I wrote on the website.
Well, I don't have that in front of me, but it is posted there for all to see.
Does anybody else have any feel about what that would actually be? What is a repeater etiquette? Please call if you remember.
Head YY.
Hey, it's TJ. Something that I was looking through the other day and didn't realize when I had read it that it's so important was the quote-unquote ka-chunking. So if I'm sitting out here and I just want to see if my hand, radio is still hitting the repeater, I'll just do a quick transmit and see if the repeater comes back that it's received my signal, and that's actually by the FCC regulations illegal. And that was something that I thought should be reiterated a little more strongly, especially to new operators.
I totally agree. Go ahead, Bart.
Roger, thank you. Good point, TJ. That would come under broadcasting. Broadcasting, according to our rules, is a transmission that is not intended for a specific person nor intended to elicit a response. However, if I say N0NYY monitoring, I'm inviting anybody that's available to go ahead and respond to me. I do intend to elicit a response. If you're kerchunking the repeater, you are not intending to elicit a response, and that is illegal. And there's a few more other points about the repeater etiquette that I would be happy to express if you want me to do so now in 0NYY.
Yes, just 1 second. Steve, you're in there?
Teddy 0 UJK.
Note from Brett. Roy is going to have some good news for you. End quote. Brett.
Roy, as in Roy Ruslip.
Why would Brett say anything else? I would guess so.
Okay.
Thought you ought to know I was going to send it forward, but I thought maybe I'd catch you on. Good enough. Go ahead, Bart.
Alrighty, thank you. One of the issues that we see on this repeater a lot is with doubling, and you will sometimes hear people key up, say their call, and unkey to interrupt a conversation. One of the issues you can run into is that the repeater has a slight audio delay and somebody will listen and not hear you and key up. And if two of you key up at the same time and give a dissertation, chances are nobody's going to hear any of it. So I will key up for a second, I will unkey and key back up just to make sure I have it. I listened for another voice when I unkeyed. You'll hear Kevin do this a lot, and it's very, very helpful. You start what you're going to say, double check to make sure you're not doubling, and if you are, just wait. And if you're not, go ahead and finish what you're saying, and you can say at the end of that break, I was just checking to see if I had the repeater. Doubles are one of the biggest problems that we have, I think, on FM. It's extremely difficult to get two signals in and hear both of them. If one of them is coming over Echolink or the other repeater, you will often hear both voices. So just making sure that you're not doubling at the beginning can be very, very helpful. Part 2 of that. Proper way to interrupt a conversation. A lot of times our conversations are just casual. Listen to see, making sure I have the repeater. Listen to see what's going on. If a couple people are having a real heartfelt or deep down in the information, very important question-answer thing, wait for it. Wait a bit. The repeater will still be there, and it's more polite to wait and let the thought get through before you interrupt the train and derail it. Sometimes it's hard to tell. Some conversations, you can't tell. And if you can't, just throw your call out there, or just throw your suffix in there. When I asked Joe to speak on this subject, another thing is grabbing a nickel, let the repeater unkey, wait for the courtesy beep, and come back in, so when you get long-winded, you don't time out the repeater, which I do on a regular basis. Somebody has to test the timer. I guess it's my job. At any rate, N0NYY for the beep. If you just throw out your suffix, somebody will ask you when they've done with their focus, and they'll tell you to go ahead. If you've got to make a call, ask for it. If you have input on the subject, volunteer it, and that type of thing. But a lot of people will just key up, start talking, and because of that little audio delay, not know that they're doubling, and then both of you have to go back over everything you said most of the time. I think that's it for the moment, and thank you very much, Joe, for letting me soapbox a little bit. N0NYY Mobile.
MH?
Mike, was that you?
Yes, it was. Thank you for letting me jump in, WB0MH. One rule of thumb that follows up with something that Bart was saying: please listen before you transmit. Back to net.
ZIE?
Oh, go ahead, Darren.
Thanks. Just a couple of comments to follow on with what was said before. When you're in a group talking on the air, a lot of times it helps to reduce the doubles by going in a round robin. So you just take turns and follow each person in the same order, and that greatly reduces the doubles. And yeah, we do that a lot on the morning drives, I've noticed.
SBS.
Go ahead, Tony.
One of the big things is give a break. You know, a lot of people, the guy is he's barely getting the last breath out, and the next guy's already pounding in there. And I hear that a lot. As far as keying up and not IDing or anything, if you're on a digital net where it's digitally sending out your signal, there's a lot of these digital nets, like on D-Star and places like that now, that they just want you to key up. They see your call sign come across their screen, and they put you down. I don't know if that's legal or not, but that's what they want you to do. Because otherwise it takes up too much of their net with all the people coming in, and then they get you off of their screen. So I'm not sure how legal that is, but I know they're doing that a lot now. So that's one of the things. Give a break. If somebody had to get in there with emergency, a lot of times you can't get in. W0SBS.
Comment, W2MIC.
Good evening, Mark. Go ahead.
Hi, Joe. Late check-in, please. One way to interrupt an ongoing conversation, or better still, to join it, is to say question and your call sign, or comment and your call sign. And I would say 99.995% of the time, people yammering will happily let you jump in. I want to follow up to what Tony said. Many people have radios, handhelds, mobiles, etc., that will scan multiple repeaters in a loop. And as a result, if you punch on the key and start talking, the scanner may take a couple of seconds to find the conversation, and they will miss your call sign. So, as Tony says, leave a few seconds after the end of the other person's transmission, and then I suggest press the push-to-talk key and give it a 2-count or a 3-count to let all those little handhelds going amongst all the repeaters come latch onto your carrier coming out of the repeater. And then when you start talking, they'll be there, they can hear you, and they won't have to say, "I'm sorry I missed that, could you please repeat that?"
Very good, Mark. Anybody else have any comments?
HIM.
Oh, you have the floor, Rick. Go ahead.
Well, there's been a bunch of us using 2-meter simplex, 220, this and that. So we've kind of gotten the habit with each other. They come in there and say, KE0HIM on 275, or whatever the place is. That way, if somebody that's scanning around, they can tell where the sound came from. So that's my 2 cents on it.
MIC.
Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, those of us with older radios that will scan, hear something, and then resume scanning, really appreciate somebody saying W2MIC on the 447.275. because then even though my radio keeps going, I can come back and switch to the correct repeater and respond to them.
SBS.
Go ahead, Tony.
Thanks. A lot on the DMR when you first got onto it. I think we're still doing it. You would say where you're at, like you're on Worldwide or there's a W0SBS on TAC 310. So if somebody's listening and their radios are scanned as the same thing that he's saying, they'll know where you're at. Because if you, like you said, if you got your radio on scan, you don't know where they are and you're bouncing all over trying to find them. So that's always a good rule of thumb when you're doing that sort of thing. W0SBS.
EFP.
Go ahead, sir.
Another gentleman just mentioned about giving it 2 seconds. I think it was MIC. That's good for several reasons. Another reason it's good to give it 2 seconds. A lot of these digital repeaters, when you key up, you want to give them time to sync up, with their outgoing connection, if they're tied into Brandmeister or another such network. I know when I operate on the P25 networks for an agency I volunteer with, that's one of the things we try to do is give it a good 2 second key up, and it really helps out making sure nothing gets missed. K0EFB.
Very good comments. Anyone else?
W0TGH, this is TJ. Question regarding a similar situation. If I'm using crossband, sorry, there's my kid in the background. If I'm using a crossband transceiver, do I have to consider anything with that delay?
If anybody else, Mark, I know you know the answer because you've told me.
W2MIC, back from answering the door. What was the question again, please, Joe?
TJ, go ahead with your question. Mark has actually told me about this.
All right, I'm going to try this again with my kid. He might interrupt, which is okay for a 16-month-old. When using a crossband transceiver, let's just say hypothetically going from 2 meter to 70 centimeter, what do I have to recognize or do as a form of etiquette for that delay?
You need to give your call sign because you're transmitting on one frequency and then your radio is transmitting on the other, so it's critically important to identify. For a delay, I would give it 1 or 2 seconds for everything to switch over and set up. Not any particular delay in terms of digital signal delay or some kind of a chain, but it's generally a good idea. I would say 2 or 3 seconds to make sure everything is switched over, latched up, powered up, etc.
And my wife?
W0TJH, I appreciate that. I just thank you for that. I wanted to know if I needed to account for a delay with the repeater. How about this on my own end, setting up that radio rig? Yeah, thank you, Mark. W0TJH.
Bart, I think you had a comment?
Roger, I did. Good information. Thank you, Mark, on the delays. On older radios, don't ask me why I'm talking about older radios, there's even longer delays occasionally, especially if you're using CTCSS or tone squelch. Some of the older radios with a separate tone board would take half a second, 3/4 of a second. Oh, yeah, that's the tone. That's what I was listening for. Yes, key the transmitter. Then the transmitter comes up. When you set up a crossband link, if you can possibly do it, even if you have to invite someone over to help, listen to your own signals, time your radios, find out how long it takes to key, find out how long it takes to drop, there's no information like testing the real hardware. So check it out and see. You'll find out, you'll learn a lot of valuable stuff very, very quickly. The new radios, the tone squelch is really, really fast. I don't see much in the way of delay anymore. But again, test it, find out. Don't just hook it up, program it, assume it's going to work. Gain a good understanding in exactly how it works. N0NYY, send back to net.
MIC.
Go ahead, Mark.
W2MIC. Oh, I strongly agree with Bart. I have very, very carefully read through the user manuals and service manuals for several radios that will do crossband repeat, and the delay issue is just not mentioned. It's vital to test.
SBS.
Go ahead.
Yeah, that's pretty good, all of it, because, you know, I'm the big crossbander here. I had to do it for 7 months while I was laying in a recliner to crossband through a 8800 Yaesu. But, you know, a lot of HTs nowadays crossband, and most of the mobiles, say you have one of them DMR 400 Fusions, there's a way you have to do it. It doesn't even tell you in the manual. You have to push all the 3 buttons on the side, then fire it up, and you're in crossband mode after you set it up. Of course, you know, you're going from either 2 meter to 440 or 440 to 2 meter, unless you have a rail that does other bands. But yeah, there's always a delay because it transmits into it on, say, 440, and then it has to, as it's transmitting out on the other side, and then there's the repeater delay. So it's usually, I'd say, about 2 or 3 seconds is a good rule of thumb, but you can see how your radio drops in and out. You know, we use that a lot when we're doing emergency stuff. You'll set your vehicle somewhere, and then you'll be out on an HT to be where the people are. So anyway, it's just, like you said, a rule of thumb. Just try it a couple times. I usually announce if I'm cross-banding. If I'm going to go into a repeater, I'll say, this is Tony, W0SBS, and I'm going to be cross-banding into the repeater because I'm in an area where I can't hit it good with an HT or something. So there you are, W0SBS.
NYY.
Go ahead, Bart, sorry.
Roger, thank you. Something to think about when you crossband repeat. TJ, I think we have talked about this before, but I know that there's a lot of new people out there. This is a hugely valuable tool. It can be really, really, really handy. But you really, really need to pay attention to the radio you're doing this with, especially at first. It is going to see a much, much higher transmit duty cycle than ever before. It's just about like holding the key down full time, because your crossband link is transmitting either to the repeater or transmitting on simplex back to you. Therefore, it's very important. Use the minimum power necessary to get to it with your HT, which is usually almost always low power, because that's why you're doing it, because you're right around there handy. Know what the minimum power to the repeater is that you need to communicate clearly, and use those powers. Double check your radio, watch for how hot it gets, make sure it's not sitting on something big and flat that's insulating it. If it's mounted on one of the little brackets or whatever that holds it up off the surface so it can cool, pay attention to your cooling, monitor the radio. It's no fun to burn them up. N0NYY, thanks again.
N6YYY, this is W0TGH. No, thank you again for that. Yeah, I remember when you guys, when you and Kevin were talking to me about that, and I really appreciate that. And Mark, again, I appreciate everything, and Greg and everybody from, the connection. Yeah, I think I might put my radio in a refrigerator for that first, few hour while I test it. No, I'm going to definitely watch that duty cycle and go to minimum on that. Thank you, W0TGH.
SBS one more time, I guess.
Go ahead, Tony.
Sometimes I wonder if I'm getting out. But anyway, what you can do, what I do when I'm out there in the field doing emergency stuff, be it a bike rally or the floods or the fires or whatever we were doing, is you get like a nice-sized computer fan if you're using this, and you kind of set it below the radio, keep airflow moving across that thing, and like they said, you know, use low power as you can. And usually if you got a fan running out there, because it's 12 volts, and whatever you're running, 12 volts will run, of course, your 12-volt fan. And that's what I do. On the stuff in the house, when I'm doing things like that, I bought that expensive one from Yaesu that's mounted onto my radio, but you don't really need to go that route. You can get a cheaper fan somewhere and out of an old busted-up computer, a good-sized one, and that'll generally help keep it cooled down, too. Airflow is the big thing. W0S.
Excellent comments. Anybody else have any comments?
K0EFP via Lee Hill.
Go ahead, Mr. Lee Hill.
One suggestion on cross-banding is some radios will let you do either full duplex or they'll let you do one-way where your the radio won't transmit to your handheld in situations where your handheld can hear a repeater, just can't get out. I know the Kenwoods will let you do either two-way or one-way cross-banding, so that can also be a way to cut down on the duty cycles if your handheld can hear the repeater directly.
Very good. Any other comments?
N0EMP.
N0EMP, go ahead, Greg.
Yeah, we've got a lot of new hams, so primarily for those folks, there's some real basic stuff. First of all, this is a pretty good repeater to listen to pick up good habits. I've heard a lot worse, not on any of our club repeaters, but on some other repeaters that aren't affiliated with us. I've heard some things that were getting kind of out of control, and actually some repeaters got shut down for a while. So this is a good one to listen to. If you've just been studying for your ticket, you're newly licensed, and you've heard about calling CQ, that's generally not done on repeaters. That's for simplex. So don't call CQ on a repeater. Just throw your call sign out. You could say N0EMP mobile or N0EMP monitoring if you just want to announce that you're out there available to talk. If you need to break in an emergency, say break. Break means you have emergency traffic, both on repeaters and on simplex. So, you know, we talked about how to casually enter a conversation by saying comment or question. If it's an emergency and you need the repeater, say break, and everyone is supposed to yield for your emergency traffic. One last thing, let me reset this. We've had some folks in the past, usually new hams, but not always new hams, that start experimenting with APRS, with GPS tracking, and there's a simplex frequency for that. They'll set that up with their radio, and if they're not careful, when they switch the radio over to one of the repeaters, they're beaconing their GPS position over the repeater every 30 seconds or whatever they're set every minute. And we've had people driving to work in the morning and spending an hour beaconing over the repeater. So if you're experimenting with APRS, make sure it doesn't follow you over to the repeater channels. N0EMP.
Yes, Greg, you brought up a good point, one that I really wanted to bring forward, and that's the word break. Not very long ago, I would say anywhere from 2 weeks to a month ago, and unfortunately, due to my schedule and everything else, I haven't been much on this 275 repeater. Of that, I do apologize. The word break is kind of wrong. I'm going to reset. On any type of repeater, and if you get onto our website, it kind of gives you this line. If you say break, all of a sudden I panic. I shut down everything. We're listening to what you say. And if you're just saying break like you would in a normal CB conversation, that is quite wrong on this repeater or anybody else's repeater. It designates that there is an issue or there is a emergency type situation that you need to channel. Everybody else get off and just listen. So please, if you can avoid that, I would really, really appreciate that. Any comments?
GES.
GES, go ahead, Kevin.
Hi there. It is not specific in the rules and regulations, I don't believe, but the general practice certainly is that we don't use break in a normal situation to get to be acknowledged, but it is very common practice still to use break in an emergency situation when you really need to get to the channel right away, to get some attention right away through what's going on. So definitely don't hesitate to use it if you have an emergency that you need to get in right away for, but do avoid using it if you're just wanting to add to the conversation or jump into a situation already being used there. N7GES.
Kitty's at TYU because I haven't done it for a while. But anyway, I'd want to read you number 3 on our repeater usage guideline. It says to join a conversation in progress, wait until the station is involved, pauses, and give your call sign and do this. Do not use the word break or break except in emergency situations. And that may be not an unwritten rule, but it is a written rule for NCARC. So I just wanted to make you available of that. Anytime you can go into the website and under repeaters, you can drop that down and it says repeater usage guidelines, our usage guidelines for the repeaters. So that is actually an NCARC statement, and it is pretty much held through pretty much every agency that I'm aware of. Any other comments about this or anything else?
KE0 KBF.
Go ahead, KBF.
Oh, just been listening for a little bit and doing a late check-in.
Great, thanks so much. Did you have any comments about this?
No, not really. I think everything's pretty much been covered for what I could say. I just been listening.
Now, I kind of want to mention this because some of you do some net controls, and there are little tricks that a net control can use. Doubles seem to be the biggest problem that any net control person has, whether they're doing it or they're actually having, they're trying to listen for 2 people to come in. I'll let this drop for a minute. If you've got an old Bofang sitting around there, or you got nothing but a Bofang, and maybe you got 2 of them suckers, what you can do is turn that thing on low, so and there's going to be a delay, but once you get used to that, you can actually hear if somebody else is on there when you jump on. So that's a little trick that Radio Dan showed me, and it really works well.
K0
Hi there, Luann. Comments?
Well, we were busy this evening, and I just came on late check-in, and that was a technique that you and Kevin taught me. You just either throw out your call or a couple of words, and then see if you have it.
That's a very good way to do it. However, the way you did it was perfect. What I've seen is people will say KD0DYU and then wait about 2 minutes.
Well, I was bad about that because Phil goes, get on there, just let it drop and see. I tended to be a little slow, but learning kind of the rhythm is a good thing.
November 0, Whiskey, India, Quebec.
Hi, Carrie. We're talking about repeater etiquette. You got any comments?
The main one I would make is listen for a little bit before you push to talk, so that you know whether or not there's a conversation going on or a break in the conversation, because that's part of the etiquette also. And then be careful what you say and all that kind of stuff. So back to net, N0WIQ.
One thing I might mention also is that everybody in the world is listening to you. And if you have that mentality when you actually do that, you probably won't do anything that's really, really bad. Somebody mentioned one time when we first started recording these particular nets, well, you can't do that because there's an FCC law. Well, we looked all that stuff up and found out that there is no FCC law. And basically, these can be recorded, and we're not recording to try to get somebody. We're actually using it as an educational type thing, because there's certain people that work various times that can't get into this net. So therefore, what happens is we give them the option to be able to bring it up later. So we're not really doing anything wrong, but if you can look at it that everybody, if your mother is going to listen to you, would you say those words? Any other comments? Please call now.
EMP.
You have the floor, Greg. Go ahead.
Yeah, another thing is we have like 6 repeaters, and this one gets about 95% of the use. So if you and a buddy need to chat off on the side about something and you don't necessarily want to get a big group roundtable going, you can connect here, and then maybe, if depending on where you are, switch over to one of the repeaters that rarely gets used to get some use out of it, and then free this one up, N0 EMP.
Really true. We've got so many repeaters out there that are not being used. The 275 seems to be like it's the mainstay of the thing. But if you've got a friend that wants to go to Buckhorn, we got 2 repeaters up there, and we also got Budweiser.
N0WIQ, a comment?
Go ahead.
Joe, you doubled with him. He wouldn't have heard you.
Go ahead, Kerry.
This jumping around from one repeater to another kind of depends on the propagation that each user has. So it's one of the things to think about is if you want to jump around on computers, you have to make sure that everybody in the people in the conversation can use the same repeater, so to speak. Back to net.
I guess that might be an issue. Normally, if I'm talking to somebody local, they can really hit it, but you're absolutely right on that. Plus, this is the only repeater that we have currently that has Echolink on it, and that kind of makes a difference too. Any other comments or questions about this repeater usage?
ABK.
Go ahead.
It's K0ABK. You brought up Echolink, and since I haven't currently used it, I just wanted to bring up for anybody that is new into it that there is no timer indicator like you would receive over the air on your mobile rig or your base rig. So you have to keep track of your time for your call. And with one of the frustrating, or not really frustrating, but one of the little tricks you have to learn is you have to let the carrier completely drop before your PTT button will allow you to switch over to transmit side. K0ABK, back to net.
Does anybody else have any comments?
LEO?
Miss LEO, go ahead.
Well, as far as the EVV. Sorry, my have had a long day. We did some repeater jumping just to get everybody used to doing that, and we've gotten out of that, and that's available to everybody in the area. But this is a good repeater net, and this repeater is very good for helping people figure things out with the radio. And I thank all of you, because me being a very new ham at this, it's a very good environment to learn.
Anybody else have any comments about repeater etiquette?
WIQ, there's a comment again.
Go ahead, Carrie.
Oh, I often think about an instructor I had when I was in high school. When he'd get up and try to lecture us, he'd often scold the people that were trying to communicate between each other. And he'd bring up this idea that if you're talking, you can't listen. Well, this radio situation is basically a simplex, especially on the repeater. So the talker has the floor, everybody has to listen to him, and when it's somebody else's turn, they have to listen to him. So, I mean, hey, what can I say? Back to net.
Very good analogy. Anyone else have anything to say? Anything about this repeater etiquette? Well, we've covered a lot of material tonight, and very important material, I thought. About 3 or 4 weeks ago, I looked at this and I was really, really kind of dismayed with the new folks that didn't understand it, and some of them that had been around for a while. No one that uses repeater commonly, but it was some new people that were in here, and I understand if you don't know enough to even ask the questions. So I'd like to thank everybody for kind of chipping in. Any other comments?
KD0ZWU with a late check-in.
Did I just double with someone? Come back.
Could be Joe. This is KD0ZWU with a late check-in.
Oh, hi Terry. We're talking about repeater etiquette. Do you have anything to add?
I'm sorry I didn't hear the conversation, so I'll leave it to those who are listening.
Do you have a question or comment for the net at all?
No, not tonight. Just good to be back home.
Very good having you here also. Any other comments, questions for the net? Please call. Okay, next week we're going to open this up for the next couple weeks to open an open forum. Anything you guys want to talk about, we'll talk about, and we'll try to make that what we're going to do for the next couple weeks. Anyway, if there's no other comments or questions for the net, that lasted about 65 minutes. We had about 22 check-ins. Thank everybody for checking in, and don't forget our Wednesday night net, which I will probably be there for. I think if this is not, this is the second week, so I got to be there for this one. And thanks to Dave, who wasn't, who jumped right in last week. So if there's no other thing, it's KD0TYU saying good night to everyone out there, and you have a pleasant week. The repeater's now open for general use.